This episode of After Dark is brought to you by Shutterstock.com. With over 20 million high-quality stock photos, illustrations, vectors, and video clips, Shutterstock helps you take your creative projects to the next level. For 30% off your new account, head on over to Shutterstock.com and use the offer code Gamebreaker8.
Damn! Take 4 was on the money.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Shutterstock. I mean, After Dark. Welcome to After Dark, the live call-in show where you guys call in and make the show happen. Joining me, like he does every week on Tuesday nights at 9-ish p.m., the one, the only, Mr. Gary Gannon.
It was take 5. I can't really count, but Shaftnet messed up the intro sponsor spot 5 times.
4.
5. That was the 5th one you got it right.
Oh, all right. Well, fair enough.
But we are here. It is Tuesday night. It is After Dark, and we are taking your calls, and we have excited.
We are excited.
We are busy and excited and glad to have the chat room with us. Hello, everybody. Hello.
We so excited. We so excited. It's Friday.
It's not
We
Friday.
so excited. I forgot the lyrics of that song. That awful, awful song, and I forgot the lyrics. I feel bad. I should be ashamed of my life. All right, let's go ahead and just open up the lines and get the show moving. Caller, you're on the line with Gamebreaker After Dark. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're from. Tell us your question.
Chef Gannon, what's going on, guys?
Yo.
From New York. Boogie Down Bronx.
How you doing?
Boogie
Down Bronx, BDP.
That's it. What's up, fellas?
Not a whole lot. How are you, man? New caller? It sounds like a new voice. You new caller?
Good. Brand new caller.
Wonderful. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
What do you got for us this week?
So I got a WoW question for you guys.
Don't answer those here. They're not allowed.
Kind of seems like I'm beating a dead horse here, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway, okay?
Okay.
It has to do, I guess, somewhat with sub loss and whatnot, but it just seems like every time Gary, stop laughing. Wait. Every time I tune into Gamebreaker or another fan site, I see what seems like the grind being removed from WoW. Okay, I see like the level of accessibility being, going up. Do you think that this has anything to do with the fluctuation in subs or the sub loss?
Does the removal of the grind have anything to do with sub loss? I don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think people in the West like the grind all that much.
Otherwise, Terra would have done great.
Yeah, I don't think it has to do with sub loss. I just think that they're like moving towards like trying to make leveling and the experience of what used to be the grind just a little bit more, not seamless, but a little bit less like of a grind. Like more, give you more diverse activities to do, give you different things to kind of like, grind out those levels instead of just like killing. See, back in the day, like I always consider grinding was when a lot of games you actually ran out of quests at some point, and you used to literally have to like stand out and just like chain kill mobs, and that was grinding, and that was a nightmare.
Let me throw this out because maybe
Throwing out the question? Throwing out your call?
Yeah, I'm gonna. Just something else. No, just something else to you guys. I'm gonna pose it as a little bit more of an analogy for you guys.
Okay.
Hopefully, you guys golf. Okay. This is the way I see it. Okay. It seems to me like I'm not a very good golfer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's that one perfect shot that keeps bringing me back, right? It seems to me like WoW has just kind of quadrupled the playing field, took out all of the sand, all of the water, made the green like 5 times as big, and said, "Just go for it, guys." They took out that. They
took out.
I don't even know if it's a grind so much.
I don't think
maybe my. Go ahead. Sorry.
So no, let me see if I'm interpreting this correct. So maybe it's not like grind, but I do feel like they have removed to some extent, maybe not for the hardcore raiders and things like that, where they have these big things that they can accomplish, where they're like difficult things like progression raiders and stuff, taking down boss mobs and like doing the raiding thing. But I think for a lot of other players, they've made a lot of different like easier paths of gameplay style, which I do think slightly removes the real big sense of accomplishment. So you kind of lose it. Like, so you know, if you want to use the golf analogy, having all the traps in the sand and the green's kind of small and maybe not really cut so perfect, and then you get that perfect shot, you're like, yes, I got it, because you know how difficult it was. Exactly. And if it's really laid out for you to, yeah, I don't. That to me is not grind, but I do think that that is like, I gotta say, I think it's not just WoW though. I think it's like modern MMO design has really gone that way for a while now.
I think that's partially because video games as a whole have become a lot more accessible to the market that they used to be. I mean, there were not that many people playing MMOs when WoW first launched, when it was difficult in Burning Crusade or in even vanilla. And I think that it's become easier because they've wanted to make it more accessible. But I think what the problem is by making it more accessible, they've diminished that feeling or that desire to want to log in the game to get player. Why do you go golfing on days that you don't have a tournament? Well, to practice, to get better at the game so that you're better when the tournament comes around. And I feel like that desire to log into the game and to just play to get better geared. You're playing in to do specific systems or to do specific tasks. None of it is anymore, at least for me, is playing to try and get better. Or playing in just to run around the world anymore. I'm logging in and doing LFR. I'm running around and doing dailies. I'm not exploring the world like I used to. And that's why I think a lot of the decline is people aren't logging into MMOs anymore to play the game, to just log in. And that's why I actually really like EverQuest Next, and I'm really excited about it. We have some Twitter questions in it, so I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but I think that the new direction that we're kind of seeing from there will hopefully reinvigorate that idea of the desire to log into a game simply to just log into the game and play, not log into the game to do all the accessible stuff. I don't know. Do you agree with that?
I guess, again, for me, the term grind maybe wasn't, that's where I was kind of losing the caller a little bit there on the term grind. But for me, it's not really so much that like the grind, taking away the grind is a bad thing. Like I said, for me, a lot of the modern MMO stuff, like how they're making a lot of the paths accessible, you don't have what I call like those white knuckle moments. You don't have the sense of accomplishment anymore when you and your friends got to do something and you almost like, and again, I know players still do have that, so I shouldn't categorize and say like no one has that, because I do know that hardcore raiders do have that experience, and when they take down a boss that they've been beating on for like days or weeks, they do feel that sense of accomplishment. I unfortunately don't have the kind of time to play like that anymore either, right? So like I can't be dedicated to a raiding guild to try and have those moments. So I think for a lot of players who are starting to like, you know, their lives are changing, things like that, they're still looking for that emotional reaction and those moments in MMOs that aren't really coming as easily anymore. And for a lot of us, it's really hard to dedicate the time to kind of like, you know, foster those. So I do think we're going to hopefully talk a little bit more EverQuest Next. I do think some of the sandbox elements of MMOs could bring back some of those, maybe even if they're not white knuckle moments like on the edge of your seat, you're going to die. I think that they're still going to help enable stories and memories that you're going to tell with your friends for years to come. And I think that that's really important.
All right, let's go ahead and move on. First off, though, I just want to also appreciate brand new callers, and hopefully we have a huge list of new callers for tonight's show. So thank you, everybody who's calling in. If you guys haven't tried calling in, we do this show live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. PDT. We try and start around that time, but please, please, please show up a little bit early, call in. We'd love to get you guys on the show if you haven't called in before. So please, please, please call in, ask your questions, and be a part of Gamebreaker. So let's open up the lines again and keep this show rolling. Caller, you're on the line with Gamebreaker After Dark. Tell us your name, tell us where you're from, tell us your question.
Hi, I'm Justin Moore. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. My question was pretty simple. It's how do you feel about ArcheAge being handled by Tryon as opposed to someone who's more like used to localization like NCSoft or Nexon?
You went there. You went there. Wow. I don't know. I mean, Tryon. I think they've got a bit of an uphill battle with ArcheAge, however you want to say it. A little more than people may think. I'm not sure. Just my opinion. We've obviously seen massive layoffs over there. There's been, I believe, some possibly more on the Defiance team that's not doing so hot. Rift seems to have a bit of a turnaround now that's gone free to play. A lot more people playing that, but I still don't know numbers. How that translates to ArcheAge. I do know, I read somewhere, I can't remember. I think Scott Hawks, editor-in-chief at Zam.com, might be in chat room, and he might be able to remind me where this came from. But I seem to remember somebody talking about the number of the amount of dialogue in ArcheAge that needs to be translated alone, and it's like astronomical.
Holy cow!
It's some incredible number. I am a little worried about how ArcheAge is gonna fare over here. I don't think it's gonna be a big game. I don't think it's gonna make a huge splash. I think it's gonna have a niche audience.
But do you think that the market for that game needs to be big?
I think Tryon thinks it needs to be big right now. I don't know how great of a position they're in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look what's going on. I mean, just like
So if
Storm Legion didn't really kind of do what I think that they thought it was going to do, and steamrolling after that, like Defiance definitely, and like I said, you saw these like layoffs, which is kind of like there's the visual of, hey, what else do they have? End of Nations, that thing's been revamped, and that's kind of in flux right now, so we don't really know where that's going to go. I don't really see, I don't know of anything else they have that's like a really big title on their roster that's going to kind of. They need to pull something out with this one. I think ArcheAge might be their best shot from what I've seen.
If this is the case, though, if Tryon isn't necessarily the best choice, or maybe they are, but is there anyone else out there that you think would be the right choice or a better choice to take on this task?
I don't know. I mean, localization. I mean, they've already talked about how the systems of ArcheAge aren't really going to change. So they're really going to leave the way the game has been designed is going to stay very much the same, which I think is a good thing. So I mean, really, they have to do a lot of language translation is probably a big, huge bulk, and then a lot of server stuff and a lot of like technology things and all that kind of back-end stuff. But as far as like inside the game code, they're not going to change much about how the systems work and all that kind of stuff. So I don't really know how much sort of technical prowess they really need to kind of pull that off. I think Tryon can pull that off. I think they can hire translators and get all that stuff right. I think they're going to do an okay job with it. I just think I just wonder how they are right now as far as a company goes, because it's definitely the signs haven't been great for the past like 12 months.
No, and I mean it's got to be tough when you consider, as you said, everything that they're kind of putting out, or they really probably are looking at for a hit out of this game of all things. But I agree with you. I don't think it's going to be one of those games that like is massive. It's going to fall into a very niche group of people. It's going to be a low player base, but the people that play it will love it.
And I mean, Defiance, I think the television show is probably doing better than the game right now.
I think a lot of people in chat are saying, they're like, oh, I like the TV show, but the MMO.
I think the TV show is doing better than the MMO. I just found that the executive producer is not on the game anymore either. So I don't know.
What do you think that means? So we'll transition here in just a second. What do you think that might mean for Defiance? Does that mean the Defiance TV show keeps going? Does that mean that both projects get scrapped?
I don't know. This is what we always wondered when they were taking on this project. Like, do they go hand in hand? Like, what happens if the game is great, the TV sucks? Like, I don't know. I mean, I could see if the television show is getting really good ratings. I don't know the ratings. I haven't been following it. I could see them potentially saying, like, working out a deal, say the game goes away and have the television show live on if it's a successful enough television show. I think they don't have to live hand in hand, so maybe we'll see that happen. I don't know.
Interesting. All right, let's go ahead and open up the lines again and take another caller. Caller on the line with Gamebreaker After Dark. Tell us your name, tell us where you're from, tell us your question.
Hello, everyone. I'm Saeed from Dubai.
Hello, Saeed.
My question today is, as we know, when Final Fantasy 14 hit the trailer, everybody was expecting Final Fantasy high definition of 11. But my question is, if there is no Final Fantasy 11, will the people take the Final Fantasy 14 in a different perspective?
If you're saying Final Fantasy 11, if there was never a Final Fantasy 11, or if Final Fantasy 11 goes away, because I don't think Final Fantasy 11 is going away.
No, I mean if there is no Final Fantasy 11.
Oh, if there was never a Final Fantasy 11, would people be taking 14 differently? I'm not sure.
Exactly.
I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure I fully understand the question. I mean, I think they're kind of aimed at two different audiences, and I think that's why you're, we've talked about this on XIV a little bit and some other shows. I think it would be crazy for them to try and make. I guess a lot of 11 players. Are you an 11 player?
Yes,
Said?
I am.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Were you looking for kind of Final Fantasy 11, the 2013 HD model?
I'm not gonna lie. At the beginning, yes, I was looking forward for that, but when the game turned out to be in a different way, I actually like it. How different it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think for some players they were looking for that, and I think it would have been crazy for them to just kind of remake that game with a modern engine and modern graphics and all that stuff, because then they would have not alienated, but they would have then swallowed up the entire 11 community into 14, and 11's doing still quite well.
Yeah.
And it's still a sub-based game, and they're making money with that game. So why would you want to take all those people away from that game and suck them into 14? So I think that that's a big reason why they're trying to make something that's like somewhat different. That really doesn't, you're either going to have players that are going to play both 11 and 14, or you're going to have a whole crop of new players that play 14, and the old 11 players will stick to 11. So I think it's kind of a smart business decision on their end to do it. And I don't know if you guys have tried it, but it's a hell of a lot better than 1.0 was.
I mean, well, and it kind of embraces the whole entire idea of the Final Fantasy philosophy. I mean, think about it. A lot of people have had very bad perception with the sequels from Final Fantasy VII. Dirge of Cerberus was awful, and some of the prequels before Crisis didn't live up to the expectations, as well as, a lot of people don't like the trend right now with Final Fantasy 13, 2, and Lightning Returns. As Gary said, the people who enjoyed Final Fantasy 13 are the ones that are going to go on and keep playing Final Fantasy 13, 2, and potentially 3 if they liked it enough. But where Square has always kind of positioned themselves with the Final Fantasy franchise is by creating distinctual differences in their numerical value to kind of different stories, so that it does exactly as Gary said, where it capitalizes on multiple people playing multiple games. I mean, I think that a lot of people playing Final Fantasy, both Final Fantasy MMOs right now, are playing it because they're big Final Fantasy fans. I'm not saying that the systems are awful or that the games aren't good, but I think that a lot of people have picked them up or tried them or continuing to play them simply because they have a deep-seated love for everything that's Final Fantasy. I don't know very many general MMO players that have just randomly picked up any of the Final Fantasies and continued to play them. A lot of the ones that I know are Final Fantasy fanatics.
What's interesting, though, I think with the new 14, with the Realm Reborn, after playing, and I've only played till about level 10 or 12, not very high because I don't want to spoil it because I'm going to play at launch. I can see them actually scooping up a lot of players out there who play WoW, who play Rift, who play just what running the gamut of like the MMO scene. Whereas I wouldn't have said that with 11. Like 11 was pretty radical. Like 11 had some systems in there, and it was, and not to say that 14 is going to be hardcore, because everything they're saying at later levels is a very big group orientated, pretty monstrous game. But it feels more like a traditional MMO than I kind of ever expected it to feel like, in a very good way. Like it's not breaking molds and boundaries with crazy systems and all kinds of stuff like that, but I don't know. It's gorgeous. I mean, the world is gorgeous. I could see a lot of non-Final Fantasy fans playing 14.
I think the other thing, and this doesn't disagree with what you're saying, but I think the other thing that 14 is doing a really good job of doing is, I know there's a lot of people grumbling about it. I know Mike Byrne, we talked about it on Derpy last week, and he didn't like the idea. I think it was just after Derpy, but like I think it's interesting that they're integrating Lightning into the game, and that's enough, I think, to.
So you know what I think it is for them. And again, I'm not a huge like Final Fantasy fan. I don't play all of the games. I don't know all of the stories, but I think I get the sense. Chat room will correct me if I'm wrong because I'm going out on a limb. They feel a little bit like it's just a marketing ploy. Like they feel like it's a complete, like Lightning is so popular, and
They
so
could have
well
done.
known.
They could have done so much worse though within Lightning.
Yes, but I'm saying like even people who really don't know Final Fantasy know Lightning,
Sure.
and I think that that's why it rubs them the wrong way just a slight bit. Not to say that it's
But
going to
it
be
is.
bad.
But that's why I'm saying. That's why I'm saying. Like, it can rub you out the wrong way all day long, and I agree. But like, that's exactly what's so interesting is I think that they're trying to do this to catch the people who have played Final Fantasy 13. If they did it with Squall or Cloud or Cecil or any of the previous characters, it has that fandom draw that's going to make the person who's never tried an MMO or never tried a Final Fantasy MMO to be like, oh, this could be really cool. I'd like to see how this works. That on top of integrating in the summons, integrating the limit breaks. They're making the game so much more Final Fantasy to try and capitalize on the Final Fantasy fans that have maybe not played it. Because I think maybe they understand that the Final Fantasy brand is their niche. It's a huge niche, but they need to figure out how to bring the players of the console games into the MMO, and that's, I think, how they're going to do it. That's just my opinion. Let's move on, but before we do, I want to tell you guys about an awesome sponsor that we have with Audible.com. Gary loves Audible. I love Audible, and I've got a little bit of a story here. I said this on Legendary. I'm going to tell you guys here, because I know all of you guys don't watch the same shows. It was really awesome. I got invited down to go to a fan summit at Blizzard. A lot of cool new information that they told us about 5.4, and I was actually given the brand new World of Warcraft Vol'jin book. Super excited. Had every intention of starting the book, and I have not cracked open a single page yet. I just have not had the time. Been very upsetting for me because I'd like to know what's going on. It's an interesting look into what's going on in the raid.
Wait a minute, is the new Vol'jin book?
The new
on Audible?
Vol'jin book is on Audible.
Are you kidding?
Already.
I'm not even like this. I'm not even like doing this for a spot. I swear to God, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
really?
No, dead serious. Right here, Audible, World of Warcraft, Vol'jin, Shadows of the Horde, and that's only like a month.
Wow, that was quick.
That was very quick. But as I was saying, I haven't had a chance to sit down and read the book yet that was given to me. I don't have the time, but I have been able to take some time while I've been driving to work. I've been taking some time while I've been working on some visual effects, and I've started to listen to the Vol'jin book right through Audible, and it's an amazing, amazing service. It's super simple. All you guys got to do is head on over. I don't have the banner because the banner was not up. I don't know.
We got it there, but it's audible.com/gamebreaker. There it is.
And you guys can actually, if you guys are interested by any means of checking out the new book, because this is a brand new book, less than a month old, brand new book, you guys can pick up this book for free and a free 30-day trial of Audible by heading over to audible.com/gamebreaker. So if you guys are World of Warcraft fans, Audible was just on top of it with swooping up this book. Go check it out right now and get started.
Man, now I need to finish Ready Player One. That's definitely next on my list.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, let's move back on to some live viewer questions. Caller, you're on the line with Gamebreaker After Dark. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're from. Tell us your question.
Hello, my name is Jacob. I'm from Denmark. I'm also known as Jiginator93 from the chat or from Twitter.
Nice to have you
Hello,
on the
sir.
show. Thank you for calling.
I actually submitted a question to Legendary in the past. Anyway, my question is, what are your thoughts on the next WoW patch regarding connected realms and heirlooms? How they work between the connected realms and all that? Because currently they are bound to the server they are on, despite the tooltips saying they are account bound.
Sure. I think connected realms are really kind of an interesting. There was a huge post talking about it, and I think real quick before we let you go, your question is how is it going to work, or what do we think about the way that it's going to work?
The way it's gonna work.
See, here's the thing: is I'm not 100% sure that it's going to cause any sort of problem. I think they might open up a can of worms of allowing someone to push a heirloom item across servers that aren't connected. They might come out and say that they have that problem, but I think that in general, the way that it seems, connected realms are having their connected auction houses, connected every zone, like everything is connecting, and they're doing a very good job of not calling these server merges, and I'm not gonna say that's what they are, but that's essentially what they are. They're finding a way to compact them down together, but still keeping the individual identity of you being on your server, even though the tech is pretty much treating it as one server. So that's where I think that the way that this is all going to work is essentially, whether it be 1 or 2, they haven't said how many servers that they're going to be moving on to. There's not going to be that kind of restriction. I don't think that we're going to have the ability to go beyond what they can pack into a single server. I'm just repeating myself now, but
why are some of the fans kind of like, on the fence with this whole thing? Because I've been, if you watch Legendary, and I mean, 2 years ago, I was talking about how they need to get rid of servers. The future is no servers. The future is just log into a world somehow. That is taking place more and more. So what's the real thing? Is it really just the server sort of like banner waving and camaraderie that people feel like they're going to lose, knowing who's on the server and who's got server first and like that sort of thing? Like, they eventually feel like that's going to slip away?
It's tough to say. I don't truly know. I think that what people do have to understand.
Because here's my take on it is a lot of games, and granted, World of Warcraft's a hard one to put into that position because it still has a lot of players. But I've played a lot of other MMOs that have gone to much less subscribers at a certain point, and there is nothing worse than actually still enjoying a game, logging in and not seeing anyone and really having anyone to play with. So I always thought it was a great thing. It's like, wow, if you could eventually consolidate to keep consolidating seamlessly without me knowing. At least when I log in, if there's 2,000-3,000 people on my server, it always feels like it's a great time. There's people running around and it feels popular. I don't know. For me in an MMO, even if I'm not playing grouping up with people, I still like seeing people. There's nothing I hate more than like logging into a server and feeling like it's a desolate wasteland.
And that's why I don't really understand why so many people have a problem with this. The only thing I can understand, the only thing I can understand is obviously, as you said, specific server camaraderie of our server got first. And but I think the biggest question, and this is kind of what the caller was getting at, is heirlooms, account-bound items, have never been able to mail across separate realms. I think the only way that you were able to do that is if you stack them on a character and character transfer that character to a different realm. So a lot of the community has been opening up the question of, well, if you're going to be making it so that, obviously all these characters are on the same server. Am I going to be, like, let's say Twisting Nether and, I don't think Kargoth is a server, it might be, but Twisting Nether and Kargoth are merged together. Am I able to send my heirlooms to my Kargoth character? Because they're on the same server now. But are they? And I think that they're...
I see what you're saying. So right now it's kind of like a weird influx moment of like things are changing, the technology's changing, and they're putting certain restrictions on certain things that kind of feel a little awkward. Well, I can understand that I guess from the player perspective. I also get the sense, don't you get the sense that they're just like checking a lot of tech and like trying to see a lot of how this works? And they don't really know all the answers exactly how this is going to work, so they're kind of keeping it locked down a little bit.
I still think, personally, what they're doing here is testing stuff for Titan.
Yeah, I'd be real. I would be surprised if Titan has a server at all.
Well, a single server.
Well, the one, but you don't even know what it is.
Right.
Like if there's one server, there's not going to be like a name for it.
Right.
I mean, it's like,
this is
Eve calls it Tranquility. Like Firefall, you just log in. Like there's.
What does that do though? And we can move on from this question here, but what does that do in a sense for, okay, does it become the Guild Wars model where like we're on this massive server together, but your server maybe necessarily isn't phased at the same time with me? Do I sometimes miss you unless you're in a group? Because obviously they can't all be on one server. They can be on multiple servers that are all interacting as one server, but they won't necessarily work. Like I won't run into you 100% of the time.
Yeah, you're gonna have different instances of those servers,
right?
For sure. But
it'll still be one server. So what do you? Does that become a problem? Do you think that MMO fans will be okay with that if a server like that existed?
My tinfoil hat is that they're probably working on a lot of tech that, especially a company like Blizzard, right? When they use things like Battle.net and your all that kind of information. I think that they can they're capturing all of that data, right? They can see who you're grouping up with. They can see who you're raiding with. They can see who you're actually interacting with, who is on your friends list, even beyond just maybe who's in your guild, but what guilds maybe have you aligned with at certain points in time. And they can use that data to kind of push you into similar areas, right? Like they can kind of like say like, hey, we know that these circles kind of overlap a little bit here. Let's put them in the same areas instead of having them, you know, and then obviously give you the option where if you do land in different places, like you do in Firefall, you could say like join on leader, boom, I go into the instance, now I'm with them. But I think that they could probably in the next year, a couple of years, even get to the point where you have to do that less and less because it's actually smart enough to just kind of put you in a place that you kind of feel home.
All right, let's go ahead and open up the lines and get another caller on the line. Caller, you're on the line with Gamebreaker After Dark. Tell us your name.
It's a really serious episode this week.
real talk with Gannon and Shaft. Caller, you're on the line with Gamebreaker After Dark. Tell us your name. Tell us where you're from. Tell us your question.
Oh, hey guys, this is Binsey from the land down under Australia. And my question is, first I'll have to give you a bit of background. In Australia, despite our strong economy, we seem to pay 50 to 100% more for our new games. So, for instance, in America, let's say COD Black Ops 17 comes out. You guys might pay $50 or $60 for it. But in Australia, for PC, we pay $90 to $100, and for consoles, $100 to $130. Now, there are many marketing things that affect this, but do you think it's fair to charge many different economies around the world, not just Australia, but just, let's say, the less fortunate countries around the world? But Australia, it's a very strong economy, first world economy, as you would say, and we seem to pay an exorbitant amount of money. And I'm not how to phrase this as a question, but what do you think could be a solution, or do you think it's morally correct, or what are your thoughts on the issue? That's the best way to say it.
Real quick, then, and not that this is going to be like a 99% answer. Is your economy stronger in the sense that like, I think our minimum wage right here is now like $8.50. Is your minimum wage or cost of living or standard of living higher than it is for us?
Exactly. That is one of the main talking points about why Australia pays more, because while we have a very small population of 22 million, our minimum wage is about $12 to $14. So it's quite a lot.
You live in a completely different economy.
Saying that,
you just across the board, everything's going to be different. It's a different currency, different economy. It's like a whole different ball game.
Yeah. I just find it unfair because what I can do, let's say, I know it's not video games, but let's say I'm buying a new book. It's published in Australia, written in Australia, all that jazz, everything Australian. I can order it from the UK, get it flown over on air freight for half the price than it is sold in our country. Like, it just boggles my mind that there's no competition in our country and that the markets are let
Stop having such a good economy and share.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm being insensitive at the time. Like I get what you're saying. I do.
think it's psychologically more affecting than anything.
Right.
I mean, because obviously if your minimum wage is higher, your cost of living is higher, people are making more money in Australia than they are here, then you obviously can afford more. That's why you're higher. You have higher prices. You live in a different economy than we do. Psychologically, it's hard to deal with because you probably watch a lot of American culture and video game websites and things like that. I think a lot of the media is coming from the States. So you hear about all these prices and you're looking at all these prices and it kind of just doesn't correlate psychologically and it's kind of like a bummer.
And let me put it this way. On the reverse side of it, you're talking about, I don't want to play more games, or pay more for games or anything in that general. Let's just say theoretically, your cost of living each month is $4,000. That's how much it costs for you to get by each month. That means that you'd essentially have only 2,000 here and your money's got to get you that much farther. Like even though you've got to pay more in the back end, we're kind of taking in America, we're potentially taking a lower end on trying what we're not making enough in terms of what it costs to survive. And that makes it a little bit more difficult for us to keep up with the standard of living and to get by on our expenses. And
I can see just how psychologically though it pisses you off because you're just like, man, they gave us like $50 and I got to buy it for like 110 or something. You're just like, why? That's crazy.
It's a psychological problem, but it's something that I think builds so much farther because you have to look at both the positive and the negative.
Well, because you look at it, I know I'm breaking it down to like simplistic terms, but like, the average Joe walking down the street in the US is like $20 in his pocket. And that means the average person in Australia's got like $60 in his pocket.
Exactly. You guys have a lot more money.
Like, so if
we had $60 in our pocket, we'd be ecstatic.
Exactly.
So that's
simplistic Capitalistic economics with Gannon and Shaftnik. Thank you.
All right, let's open up the lines again and take another caller. Caller on the line with Gamebreaker After Dark. Tell us your name, tell us where you're from, tell us your question.
Hi guys, this is RS Miskul from chat, Robert from Utah, and my question is, I'm trying to figure out if there's a way Blizzard or any real video games in general can keep content from getting dead so quick, especially with the Throne of Thunder Island and Battlefield Barons. It seems like the grouping quests became really obsolete real quick.
Interesting question. I love that we're getting questions like this. And I think I just came back from Las Vegas for like 4 days for SOE Live, which is Sony Online Entertainment's conference where they unveiled EQNext. I think we got some more questions. We're going to talk about EQNext more, but I think it's like a perfect time to kind of talk about it. I think.
Well, real quick before you go on, because I'm pretty sure this is going to lead into the into whatever you're going to answer. We'll just add in this Twitter question from Swifty. He said, with EQNext now revealed, is SOE really doing the impossible by making an MMO with full word? Oh, wait, that had nothing to do with it.
There you go. Good job.
That had I knew it was an EQ. Good job. I knew it was an EQ question.
We can do that as a follow-up.
Yeah, we'll follow up with that one.
I think where we are starting to see, though, we are starting to see, you're watching MMOs get more expensive and more expensive to create. You're watching players burn through content and get bored quicker and quicker. So as fast as these guys can make stuff and as much money as they throw at it to make more and hire more bodies, they just cannot keep up with the rate. They can't do it. It just doesn't. It's so hard at this point. It's not sustainable. It's just the curve is just out of control at this point. So I think what you're starting to see is some games like EQNext, what SOE is going to try and do, and some, I think Sandbox is getting a bit more back in fashion. And I think game developers are looking at it as hey, how can we let players kind of carve out their own sort of destiny in the game? Like what can we give them and enable them to have their own stories and help us? And even at some extent, you look at SOE's thing. I mean, they're literally having players help create content like that. The world of Norath is going to be populated by structures and buildings that people are creating in EverQuest Landmark for months. So kind of brilliant if it works right now. Could it not work? Sure. Who knows? Uncharted territory. I got to applaud SOE for taking the chance on something like this. And I do think that more companies will get it right. I think this is the only way. I personally think this is the way of the future for MMOs. I don't see how MMOs can sustain on just a theme park like style MMO. Well, the problem, it's gonna be very hard. Very small few amount of companies can do it.
The reason that I think that worked in the past was because of the model that Blizzard had at the beginning, where only less than 1% of their player base was seeing their end game content. And while that sucked from a developer standpoint, you're taking the time to create all this content and no one is getting to see it. That indefinite wall that you never felt like you beat the game. And that's what World of Warcraft used to be. I remember I did a documentary in college, and I have a friend of mine who's talking about Burning Crusade, and he's just like, when am I going to quit? Well, possibly when I get tier 6, I've run all the instances and done everything you can do, but what's the chances of doing that? Like nothing. And that's what the MMOs used to be. They're not that way anymore. And that's why we're having this problem of content's getting digested too quickly because things are too accessible. And again, like I said, I get it from the development standpoint. It's not smart to spend all this time creating content that people aren't seeing. But that's why players, I think, are feeling done and burned out. We feel like we've finished.
Because it's not that difficult. The game, I can have a conversation. I have a conversation with somebody all the time about some modern MMOs, won't name names, about even to the point of we question, is it a game? Would you consider it a game? There are some MMOs on the market right now, big AAA ones that I won't name names, that are new, that you can literally be awful. You can be the worst player ever. And I'm just talking about in the world, just with mobs and quests and just you can play so bad and still not die and still end up killing that thing, still getting that loot, still getting that gear, and moving on and progressing through the world. When does it not become a game anymore and basically just Pavlov's dog of clicking things? What are you doing? You're clicking on somebody, he's writing some text, and now you're going over and you're clicking on some pixels that are moving around on your screen that represent like a fucking ox, and then it falls over and you do it again.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think
it has gotten to that point. It's like and that's why I always do the feel good slot machine. I'm like, it's just a slot machine. It's like I suck really bad. I could do I've experimented and tried to do everything wrong in a couple games, and I've like hit every wrong button, and the mobs still die. It's like, why does that happen? Like,
right.
That's not a game.
But that's unfortunately, I think where we've come down to with the problem where I said the developers are trying to make the game accessible to everyone. They're trying not to turn off anyone from the game because they weren't able to get it done. The difficulty isn't there. You don't have to try anymore. And thus we're getting to the end and getting to this point where I'm done. I'm completed. I'm waiting for the next set of content. Make me more because I finished what you gave me. Where before it was... the chance of getting to the end was so far and few between.
But I agree so much. Scott Hawks, editor-in-chief over at Zam.com, just says in the chat room, and I can agree. He says, because companies are terrified if at any point in their game, it tells the player they're wrong. And yes, you're right. I mean, people... games have to bring back some difficulty. Mm-hmm. Like, the MMO genre cannot be afraid to be a little bit penalizing. And do
you think WildStar is going to hold true with that? That's kind of the stance they're taking?
I don't know. I've only played like really, really early stuff. I don't know. They're saying that like, that is going to be much more of a hardcore game. I'm literally waiting for a company to come along and make like Dark Souls the MMO because I think there's a market for that. Like a punishing game but not be janky. Like there's that SOE one that they published that's trying to do that, but it was really bad. Forget that. I'm talking about like a fully polished game that actually is difficult and hard. There's people out there who want to play those games.
Is that why we're seeing stuff like EverQuest Next, Minecraft, Cube World, become so popular? Is because they're these games that don't end, even though they're easy. They're these games that don't have an end. They're these games that don't have a purpose, and thus people rally.
They unlock your
them.
imagination.
Exactly.
Like if a game does, like, I'm not going to use any of them even in reference. Like say EQNext is on everybody's mind, right? Because that's where we just came from the big announcement. But literally, I mean, it's you jumping into a game like that, and what do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want to do? Let's grab a shovel and start digging. Okay, cool. Like it's not so predetermined of just like, oh, we've got to move from this zone to this zone to this zone to this zone. Oh, this is the 10 to 12 zone. Okay, we got to finish the 10 to 12 zone so we can get to like the 13 to 14 zone. Like
the game in the moment is different every second, every time. That's why it gets exciting.
And I think players and a lot of MMO players, especially the hardcore crowd of MMO players, I think they're waiting for those stories. Everybody's telling stories from EverQuest, and some people, still telling stories from WoW vanilla days. Like I said, I think for hardcore progression raiders and things like raiders in WoW World of Warcraft still today, there is a lot of fun. There's a lot of stuff to do. I don't know. There's just it's an amazing game. It's great. I just don't know. I'd be very surprised if Blizzard creates another theme park-esque MMO.
All right, real quick, as a follow-up, Gary, do you think SOE is doing the impossible by making an MMO with a fully destructible world?
Do I think they're doing the impossible?
Are SOE really doing the impossible by making an MMO with a full world destructibility?
I don't think it's impossible what they're doing. I mean, if you guys didn't see all the info, probably most of you have. They're building the world what's called out of voxels, which is like cubes that are made upon cubes. So basically, you can destroy anything in the world. I
mean, I think he gets it. I think he's just like so blown away by what they're doing. How do you think that? I mean, we talked about this a little bit. I think it was 2 days ago in our morning meeting about how like, what's the respawn rate going to be? Because if everybody just runs through the world and just destroys everything everywhere, then the world's just going to be gone.
Yeah, no, the world's going to rebuild itself. They've come out already and said that the world will rebuild itself. What the timer is, who knows? EverQuest Next is not even close to launching. Like, they're going to work through that stuff in testing and beta, and they'll tweak that stuff to kind of like build itself out. I don't think that's something gamers really need to be fixated on at this point. It's like, oh, if I blow this hole, it's going to be back there. I don't know if it's going to take 15 minutes or an hour, but that really kind of doesn't. I don't think you should get fixated on that point. It's like, oh well, it's not permanent change. Whatever. You don't want permanent change because the world of North would be flat in about 5 seconds and there'd be no game. I think they can do it. I think they can pull this off. I mean, we've seen the technology's there. I mean, if you guys watch the keynote, I got to say one of the coolest things at the end of the keynote. So we got to see the keynote the day before. Press got to see the day before. But what we didn't get to see was we did not get to see what they did at the very end, which is where they pulled the blinds back and they had like 4 or 5 machines set up and a bunch of the devs played live. That we did not see. That was actually really interesting. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but so they're in like this big, like, you know, boss, like not boss, but a pretty big boss sort of encounter fight thing. And there's a lot of stone around. There's a lot of destruction, and every time they, you know, fire off abilities, parts of the stones are falling off and building off. And then right towards the end, like somebody, you know, blasts off some big huge thing, and a big whole crater kind of like blows out from the floor. And they ended the demonstration at that point. But what's really, you could see down in underneath the ground into like another level. And it's like, if they had done that a little bit earlier, if that fight kept going, players would have been falling in that hole. Like, and now talk about adding like a whole nother dimension to like a fight. Like, just one of your buddies just blew a hole in the floor, and like 3 of your party members just fell down a hole.
Gotta bring him
down
with you.
And now there's only 2 guys up on the surface. Like, that makes a really interesting like gameplay that's like totally unpredictable and not just even about the tells of whatever this NPC is going to tell me, get out of the reds.
Do you think that it's going to eventually boil down to, and real quick and we'll move on, do you think it's going to eventually boil down to people will memorize and learn where certain pockets of monsters spawn?
No, it's not going to be
because
like that.
It's
procedurally generated.
Right.
It's gonna change.
Right.
So especially the whole underground stuff. Like if there's an underground cavern that you blow through and find, it's not going to be there. Like when it doesn't refix itself and just stay there. It'll be gone. It's not there anymore. So it goes off to somewhere else in the world, and that dungeon or whatever, it just so happens to be somewhere else. It's completely random, procedurally generated content. Ever since the old SWDJs, because that world was procedurally generated. A lot of people don't know that. Even though it didn't seem like it, everything in SWG is procedural. So literally like that step up in front of your character wasn't necessarily there until you got there, which is interesting. And that's what they're doing.
You got it in your hand. I want to see you drink.
There was nothing in to drink, so I just
fail. All right, let's open up the lines and get the show back moving. Caller, you're on the line with Gamebreaker After Dark. Tell us your name, tell us where you're from, tell us your question.
Hey guys, it's Zista.
Hey, choo choo.
How's it going, Zista? Zista, hang on real quick before we get to your question. I want to take a moment. I completely missed this, and I just want to take a moment to thank one of our other amazing sponsors here on Shutterstock, or on Shutterstock. This episode is called Shutterstock, I guess. Here on After Dark, it's our awesome sponsor, Shutterstock.com. Guys, Gary said it, I'll say it. We use Shutterstock all the time here, all the time on a daily basis. It's ridiculous.
You should show off. If you go into the XIV Reborn folder for the shows, I used like 2 major elements from Shutterstock to create our show artwork. Yeah, that right there.
Boom. It's going to take the back plate, but boom.
Yeah, 2 of those. There's 2 elements laid on top of each other in Photoshop with like a composite mode, like that whole
star edge.
Whole star thing and all that stuff. Yeah, that's basically. And then I took the Final Fantasy 14 logo, kind of did a composite mode over that for the top right corner. So that's basically 2 major Shutterstock components and a Final Fantasy one put together with some text. And there you go. That's how we create our graphics on Gamebreaker.
Stock photography and stock footage, everything goes so much farther than I think that anybody ever realizes that it does.
Gentle Snow says, made a Shutterstock account because of you guys. Love their selection.
We had Ramskill, I think I said his name wrong in chat, who just said that he bought he registered for Audible for the Vol'jin book because of us tonight. So thanks to both of you guys for registering your accounts. But it's really awesome. I can't tell you guys enough that in the creative industry, how much as an editor and as a producer, I don't have any graphical. I'm not a graphic artist. I'm not. And being able to use Shutterstock to get the images so that I have the materials and the assets that I need to edit with and to create pages makes it so much more fluid and dynamic. It speeds up a lot of the process. And I cannot.
Well, that's like a whole different subset of skills. That's an artist.
Exactly.
Like that's an artist who made that. Like the
but in the day and age of the internet,
like
you got to be able to do everything.
Right, but that's the thing. Unless you can hire somebody, that's the only way to go.
Exactly. So you don't have to hire someone. You don't have to pay outlandish fees for someone to create stuff from scratch. You can just head over to Shutterstock.com. And if you guys do so and you use the offer code GameBreaker8, you get 30% off your brand new account. So please, guys, go check out Shutterstock. And thank you to everyone who's watched this show or any other Gamebreaker shows and actually gone over and made a Shutterstock Audible account. We really appreciate it. It helps support us. So thank you guys, every single one of you. All right, Zista, now back to you. What do you got for us?
Choo choo! Get that trains rolling.
Thank you. Thank you for not showing trains on Shutterstock, by the way.
No problem.
Well, before my question, real quick, I didn't think it could get much worse than Train Simulator, and Gary just outdid himself. Agriculture Simulator was horrible.
Not even the Roomba Simulator?
I was going to say, was Agricultural Simulator worse than the Roomba? Because we could have done 20 hours of Roomba
Simulator over the agricultural one, even though the gameplay was 6 minutes. I got the whole course down. I did it 6 minutes 20 seconds was my record, and then
I know, but could you imagine if it's a 24 hours of the? Could you imagine if I said 24 hours?
So I had to start doing it blindfolded, and yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So for people out there wondering what we're talking about is Zista does a stream on Twitch. Can you hear me, Zista?
It's delayed. Yeah, I've been on that end. It's delayed very, very bad.
I just want to fill people in who are wondering what we're talking about. So Zista does a live stream, and the highest donation gets to pick what game he plays for 24 hours. And I won, and I had him play Agricultural Simulator 2013 and some vacuum Roomba simulator that I don't even know how he found that. Somebody sent that to me, and I was like, wow, that is just genius. This has to play. So I did watch as much as I could. I was actually driving. I was driving to Las Vegas and watching on my iPhone as much as I could. So I did actually see when you put the box over your head and you were playing blindfolded. That was brilliant. And I really think that you should rebrand your entire Zista brand. Your brand should be like Steel Man versus Game thing and be Man versus Terrible Games and or Terrible Games and Trolls, because all his stream is playing like the worst video games.
That sounds like the worst thing to have. That sounds like the absolute worst advice you could give someone to be there.
It's so good. It's so intriguing to watch.
Every week I'm gonna put myself through absolute misery playing the shittiest games.
And on top of that, he lets the chat room post his YouTube videos, and they're just all troll videos. They're the best of the worst like internet videos ever. It's a great stream. I love it. It's quality entertainment.
Yeah, Coltrane said that the Roomba was riveting. I see him in chat right now. But yeah, you guys should make an app and get a Roomba for the Gamebreaker studio and have your fans control the Roomba on the app. You could clean up the studio without even having to get your hands dirty.
We need that. Gary wants to try and clean the studio tomorrow, and I'm just rolling my eyes because I got to do so much work.
Roomba iPhone app. Anyway, cool. Zist, what's your question, buddy? What's going on?
Getting back to EQNext, EQNext EverQuest itself kind of set the standard for MMO. So I was wondering, now that they're trying to get their foot in the door to set the standard for new MMOs again and even sandbox games, do you think maybe Blizzard may have got some insider info, and that could have been why Titan was delayed?
I don't think so. I don't. My gut says no. I think some of the. I think no. I don't know. I don't think that's really the cause of the delay. I'd say that.
I'm not gonna lie. I completely missed the question because I was too busy trying to bring that up. Something about Blizzard and Titan and inside information, but that's all I know.
I don't think so. I mean, I think Blizzard. Like I said,
Blizzard may have got some inside info, and that might be why Titan was delayed.
I think Blizzard. I still say I would be surprised if Blizzard creates a full sandbox MMO like a World of Warcraft again. Which I don't know. They're pretty smart people. They see what's going on in the industry. I don't know if it necessarily is like all of a sudden they just caught wind of what EverQuest Next is going to be, and that's why they delayed. I doubt it. I think it might be a bit of a stretch. I think the major delay, and it was slightly confirmed. I think while I was away. Am I right?
Free to play thing.
Yeah, there was a confirmation about the whole free to play thing, and they sort of you could draw the lines between the two.
I don't remember specifically. I think that Morheim came out and said that it might not be sub based. I don't know if he confirmed that it was going to be free to play, but I think he might have said that it won't be sub based. So that I gotta agree with Gary. I still think that for me, the big telltale of why Titan got pushed back was a switch to free to play, because it's where the market's going. That's what's out. That's what's on top. Those are the king of the games right now. Subs are definitely on the decline across the board for every game. They can't expect to hold a model for 10 plus million every game they put out. I just don't think it's possible.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's a stretch. I don't think they would just like revamp and scrap everything because they saw EverQuest Next and they were like, "Oh my God, this is the future. We gotta just scrap everything, start all over, just change everything." Nah, I doubt it. That's a bit far. They know what's going on. They're paying attention. They understand voxel technology. They understand Minecraft. They understand all the elements that's in there.
But Minecraft wasn't anything new. You'd think that if the whole voxel movement was what was going to be their deciding factor, they would have made that change more than a couple months ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Titan is. I have no idea. I've heard rumors. I don't know. All I've heard of rumors of steampunk and FPS kind of style. That's all I've heard. That's all I know. Those are the grumblings I've heard. Steampunk, somehow shooting at people from either a third or first person perspective. Not very sure what that is, but that's all I've ever heard.
All right. While we try and get one more caller on the line, just a quick question over on Twitter. Brendan Bauer says, "What's your favorite headset? I have a SteelSeries 7 HS, but I really want a pair of Astro A40s."
Yes, that's the best headset.
Here's what I'll say. I gotta agree. I love when I get to host the main show because I get to have these. I love them. They're comfortable. I can wear them for hours. I can wear them for hours. But if you're not in the market, these are what, like $250?
I don't know.
They're like $250 if I'm not mistaken. If you're not in the market to spend $250 for a headset, which I understand not everybody is,
save up.
Save up. Save your pennies. But if you need one right now, no, not save up. I like the Turtle Beach ones. I do. They're not great. They're not bad. I think I have the Turtle Beach X11s, and those plug into my Xbox, and I also use that for my gaming PC. And that's good enough while I save my pennies to try and buy some A40s. So I would still say A40s are the best.
I go for A40s. They have A50s now, which are wireless, and I don't have a pair, and I've heard mixed things about the A50s, but I mean, they're the same, I think, basic headset as far as comfort goes, but they're the wireless ones. I've heard some mixed things. I don't know. They probably work awesome at this point.
I've stopped.
I also have A30s. I have A30s at home.
I've stopped trying anything wireless. I tried a wireless mouse, and I learned the hard way that having a wireless mouse is the worst thing you can possibly have if you actually try and play anything competitively. Because when your mouse dies suddenly, randomly on you, and you're scrambling for batteries, it's the worst possible thing. So I've stayed away from any sort of wireless.
I've heard the A50s are actually gotten much better. I think they've got better. The 50s. I mean, the A30s. I can't remember what the price in the A30s are. My recommendation, I do say for the A30s, I think they're really good for the price. But I have to say, I think the A40s are worth the extra money by far. The main thing is because the way the ear pads sit over the ear on the 40s and they do not on the 30s. They're quite comfortable on the 30s, but they do sit on the ear, which I gotta say does fatigue after a decent gaming session.
And I will say, even my Turtle Beach ones and every other headset I've ever worn, this one I only, after wearing for a prolonged period of time, feel a little bit of soreness on the top of my head. It's not much, but it's enough to know that I'm wearing a headset. Every other headset that I wear, I actually feel like pressure on my ears, and I start to feel this pinching in my head.
Yeah,
and that's what really bothers me about a lot of the headsets. Again, just to pimp the A40s a little bit more, these are the ones that I can wear for hours, and I don't feel that pinch. I just feel a little bit of pressure on the top of my head. So Astro A40s. All right, let's open up the lines and take another caller. Caller on the line with Gamebreaker After Dark. Tell us your name, tell us where you're from, tell us your question.
Hello, this is Mom from Saudi Arabia. How are you guys all doing today?
Hey, Mom.
Wonderful, wonderful.
What?
Said wonderful. How are you? What's your question?
I'm good. So my question is about the new Miley Cyrus song, We Can't Stop.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
What's your question?
I listened to the song. Yeah, I've listened to the song about last week when it first came out, and it sounded wrong.
Don't play it.
I can't play. Oh yeah, we'll get content ID matched.
We'll get content ID matched. Don't play it.
I haven't heard it yet. All right. Well, I can't play it. I was gonna try.
You're gonna ask a question. None of
them
us are gonna be able to answer anything. I don't even know where you're going with this because I don't listen to Miley Cyrus, so I don't know what.
What's the question?
So what's your question?
She changed a lot. I mean, I remember watching her on Disney, the Hannah Montana show. I mean, she looked like more cool and stuff, but this video, she looked more like forgive my language, she looked more like a slut in that video.
I mean, I think that every
Isn't she growing up? I mean, doesn't she have to like change her image? Like she's probably How old is she now?
She does have to change her. I think she's 18, 19.
What song are we talking about here? We can't stop. All right, I'm gonna watch it while
We
with
Can't
my
Stop.
sound down.
I mean,
I'm gonna watch
you
with the
listen to
sound
the
down while we're
lyrics,
talking.
If you listen to the lyrics, she's encouraging people to get high and drink.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that I'd say about it, Mohammed, is some people definitely take it too far. But I think the one thing that we have to understand, and the one thing that I actually do understand about the Disney label, they're super, super protective of their brand, of their artists. I'm trying to think of, I can't remember who it was, so I'm not even going to pretend, but they put a lot of restrictions on what they can talk about, the images that they can see of them. And I think that, one, a lot of people, when they break away from the Disney brand, typically try and distinguish themselves apart from it the moment that they get away. But I think that this also goes beyond just artists, under Disney.
You're seriously answering this question.
I'm seriously answering this question.
I can't believe you're seriously answering this question.
I don't care.
He called up and asked about like Miley Cyrus.
Well, we got to get another caller on anyway, so I might as well just burn some time.
I don't know. I'm kind of liking this video. That's all I'm going to say.
Gary is a pedophile and is digging on Miley Cyrus.
Hey, you said she's 18, right?
I don't know. She might be 18.
I mean, she's got to grow up and she's got to have a career.
But here's,
the only way
so
she's going to have a career is if she
what
changes
happens-
her like attitude. She's got to grow up and kind of talk to a different audience. She can't be 14 forever.
She can't. I don't know. I'd say that she can't.
What, should be like Avril Lavigne and act lie when she's like 40 and try and tell you that she's 16?
No, but see, here's the thing: is I'd say she can't embrace that and continue to speak to that audience. However, at the same time, I feel like Taylor Swift has done a really good job of continuing to speak to the audience that she was built around. But the one thing that I will say is also look at like Amanda Bynes. Look at child superstars. They get put under so much pressure at such a young age when they. Fine, whatever, Gary. I could actually talk about this. I actually have an opinion that they called in to ask. Gary's too busy laughing over the fact that I could actually talk about it. So whatever, Mohammed. Tweet me your question and I'll get back to you because Gary's too busy laughing at me. We're just going to move on because I'm running out of breath.
Wow.
Caller, you're on the line with Gamebreaker.
Are you a big Taylor Swift fan?
What?
Are you a big Taylor Swift fan?
I am a big Taylor Swift fan.
Hello.
I truly am.
Eduardo, are you a Taylor Swift fan?
Eduardo, are you a Taylor Swift fan?
Who's this?
No, yes, it's me.
Yeah, are you a big Taylor Swift fan?
Pretending to be someone else because
We can. It's impossible. We know your voice by now. You got to get one of those voice changers.
Yeah. Good advice.
What's up, Eduardo? How's your week going? Are you watching Miley Cyrus videos?
No. Well, there is a creepy picture of Sista hugging a waxed statue of Miley Cyrus.
What? That
Yes,
sounds
you
phenomenal.
really-
All right, I'm going to search for that.
Yes,
All right,
I asked
what's your question?
For the picture. Oh,
Wow.
so
All right.
my
Anyway.
question Hey.
What do you
Hello?
got for us? Hello?
Okay. Last week the British version of Walmart, I think it's a chain of stores called Asda or something like that. They stopped selling the Wii U. Like it's not in the shelves anymore in that British Walmart. So do you think this is the end of the Wii U? I mean, is the Wii U going to be Nintendo's Dreamcast?
It's not the end of Nintendo. I think Nintendo's in trouble. I think that they're not hitting the masses like they used to, and their struggle to change. Are we still streaming? I think this computer just locked up. Oh, there we go. All right, this computer locked up. I thought we were about to crash. I think that Nintendo's got a long way to go before they go bankrupt and they're dead. Dreamcast didn't have the luxury of having 4 or 5 generations of successful consoles that one is going to kill the Nintendo. But I think that Nintendo has to pivot at some point. They can't continue to go down the path that they're going. I mean,
they have to reinvent themselves like Miley Cyrus.
What?
They have to reinvent
They gotta
themselves,
reinvent
like
Miley Cyrus.
Do you like One Direction?
I don't like One Direction.
No.
I've never even listened to One Direction. You're checking all of the teeny bopper bands to see which ones I like and which ones I don't like. Yeah.
I went to the One Direction concert when I went to Vegas. Mandalay Bay.
Did you go?
No,
Front row?
No, I'm lying.
Center?
I did. No, I actually went to the casino and got bombarded by like 11-year-olds, and we were like, "What happened?" And it was the One Direction concert. They all just flooded out, and we ran the other way.
I don't know, Gary. What do you think about Nintendo? Is Nintendo in a trouble?
I have not bought an. Unfortunately, I'm not a Nintendo guy anymore. I have not bought I don't think I've bought a Nintendo I don't remember the last Nintendo console I bought. I just don't. I don't know. It's not my console anymore. I gotta admit, there has not been a title on Nintendo that I've cared so much about that I've wanted to. I can't remember the last console I bought.
I think Nintendo takes too much an effort of trying to be different. They've got their staples that they don't like to touch, or they only touch every so often, and then beyond that, they continue to try and go down the route of being very family-oriented and kid-friendly games. And I think that's something to attribute to what you just said there about you haven't played Nintendo in a long time. I don't think you're their market anymore. They don't care that you're not playing their games. They're not going, and they've been open and honest about not being the hardcore gamer after the hardcore gamer for a very long time.
Does anybody know if you can stream a new Miley Cyrus video on the Nintendo? Is that possible? Does that happen? Can you do that? No?
We're not going to get away from it. Guys, you can follow Gary Gannon right down there at Gary Gannon. Be sure to check him all over Gamebreaker. Troll him about Miley Cyrus.
Oh, wait. Don't stop the show. Wait.
What?
Shut the music off. We launched a brand new website. We got a pimp. We got pimp, yo! XIVnation.com, Final Fantasy XIV fans, 14 fans. We have launched a website for you and the community. It is called XIVnation.com. You can go to the .tv. We got that too, but pimpin.com. XIVnation.com, forums, news, guides, all kinds of stuff, and it's just going to get better and better and better. We just launched it today. It's getting really awesome feedback. You guys seem to like it. I hope you guys like it. And for you guys in the Final Fantasy 14 crowd, if you guys are living at some other websites, I hope you guys consider coming over and making this your community and your home, because we really want to make this the #1 community FFXIV site on the net. So just want to get that out there and make sure you guys know it exists. Yes, we have to say XIV. I will say it forever.
Not 14.
No.
Because what's 14 Nation? Who knows?
14 Nation sounds terrible. XIV sounds awesome.
Roman numerals. Who knew? You guys can follow me right down here at Mike Shavnit. Be sure to follow me. Catch me on Waypoints. We got a World of Warcraft Waypoint that goes live every Tuesday, as well as maybe a League of Legends Waypoint showing up on Thursday. Just saying. Be sure to catch me right here on After Dark as well every Tuesday at 9 p.m. PDT, where we answer your live questions, as well as catch me over on Legendary on Thursdays as well. Wow, my Tuesdays and Thursdays are just packed. Absolutely packed. You guys can follow at Gamebreaker TV for all of your video game related news. Be sure to check out the site, Gamebreaker TV, Gamebreaker.tv, and check out all of our awesome shows about a whole bunch of different MMOs. Thank you guys so much for watching. We had a huge list of new callers on tonight's show. So again, thank you every single one of you guys.
Thank you for new callers. Thank you.
For stepping
we
up.
need more next week. More of you in the chat room. You know you're new. You haven't called in. Make it a point. You're going to call in next week. Think of your questions. You got all week.
All week. You know, every single one of them is going to procrastinate until 10 minutes before the show and then try and call Q in the middle of the show with their question, because that's the way it works. But you don't get on the show if you call while we're doing the show. You got to call before. So you better show up an hour before, show up at about 8. Thank you guys so much for calling. We appreciate it. And see you guys next week.
We better not get 10 Miley Cyrus questions. That's all I'm saying.